Hello, my name is David. I'm here at my paint table for building lures, and today I'm going to demonstrate to you how to create excellent quality powder painted jig heads. Okay, we're going to use something called a fluid bed for that painting process. Okay, and what we really want to do is get a jig similar to this completed one, a jig head that has a very thin coat of paint on it. And actually this one is coated 4 different layers, and it still is thin enough to have the sharp quality barb on the shaft of this that holds your bait. Okay, that's the keeper. And a lot of times when guys use conventional dipping methods for creating their powder painted lures, they lose that quality. It becomes somewhat rounded and somewhat muddled. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of the fluid bed. Another thing is that it produces lures using much less paint and much less waste. Okay, and you won't make quite as few mistakes. There won't be those bad ones that you end up tossing aside. Okay, the fluid bed that I build is a 4-chamber, which means that you can actually levitate 4 different layers of powder paints, and I keep my powder paints inside their chambers and just simply put the color right on the top of the cap. Okay, so the one that I build comes with 4 different chambers, a valve for each one so you can independently control the airflow. Okay, it'll come with 4 of the powder chambers and then 2 extras. Okay, so that you can change those off. So you'll have the options immediately of using 6 different colors in your painting schemes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put that filter in there, and the paper filters also provide the bottom of the cup. Okay, so that when you're done, just like I did with these, you can label those and store your paints away. You don't ever have to take your paint back out of this. The other commercially built fluid beds usually have just 1 chamber, and I can't imagine how long it would take to change from one powder paint color to another, particularly when you're building something as elaborate as this Table Rock shad color, which basically starts off with a yellow dip. Okay, then I do a white dip on top, then followed by a purple dip on top. The white underlayer allows the purple to stand out and not look as dark. Okay, and then the whole thing is once again dipped in a UV top coat, which allows the lure to be seen at darker depths, deeper depths. Okay, now the paint mediums that you put in here are powder paint. You can get those at many different varieties of lure builder stores. Harbor Freight carries a cheap, inexpensive powder paint, and you can get it in much bigger quantities, but far less color options. Okay, and the other vendors also carry that. Really, the quality kind of coincides directly with the price. You'll pay more for the higher quality paints, but in a lot of cases, like doing undercoats like I do, I don't need a really high quality paint. And the fluid bed also allows you to use those cheaper paints because it keeps that paint really nice and light and fluffy. Okay, I also have a hanging or a drying rack right here that's basically just built out of 2x6s and a couple of all-thread bolts that I could hang my lures on and move on to the next lure. Okay, while that one is cooling. Okay, I don't have to hold on to it. Okay, so once again, the one you purchase will come with 4 chambers, 4 independent valves, 6 canisters. Okay, the pump is also included. Okay, you'll also need to purchase or obtain a heat gun. Now this is a Wagner model. It's a little bit more expensive than you need. It just needs to make sure that it has a low setting on it so that you don't overcook or overheat your lures as we go through the process. I'm going to adjust the camera angle so that you're looking directly down on my canisters and you can see how this thing really works. Okay, so now we're looking directly down on the paint table. And what I'm going to do is make sure my valves are in the off position. And then I'm going to select my paint chambers that go on here. Now, the Table Rock Shad pattern starts off with a chartreuse yellow. Now, before I uncap my paints, I usually give them a little gentle tap. Try to settle down any paint that's inside there, and I put it on the chamber. Okay, the next coat is the white undercoat, so I'm going to put that one on here. Oops, push down a little bit hard and sometimes it puffs some air up. Then I am going to use my purple is the top of the head, and it's kind of a purple glitter color. And then the UV coat will go on the last chamber. Okay, it's pretty important to put your cups in the order that you're going to use them so you don't get confused, especially if you're doing hundreds of jigs, with it, which this rig is completely capable of doing. Okay, then I use a bent nose pair of Hemos. They don't have to be bent nose, but I prefer them. Okay, and then I need to adjust my airflow. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my pump. Okay, I'm going to start off with the yellow container first. Start opening it until it bubbles. I usually keep another set of Hemos around to kind of loosen the paint at the very beginning of it. And you can see how it's starting to bubble. They call it a fluid bed because your paint becomes almost like a water in the cup, where it'll level itself back out again and it'll stay nice and light and fluffy inside the cup there. So I could dip hundreds of lures without ever having to stir this, and without my paints becoming really chunky on the lures, wasting paint and really destroying the lures. Okay, so then I'm going to move to the white, and make sure you wipe off your Hemos between this if you're going to stir with them. Okay, I'm going to get that one moving somewhat like a liquid. Okay, and then of course the purple. And finally the UV. And you can really see with that UV how it starts kind of flowing like a paint, or a liquid paint rather. Okay, so now I've got them all nice and light and fluffy and flowing and working pretty nice with each other. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my lure. Okay, it's just double checking here, making sure everything's ready to go. Alright, I'm going to preheat my lure, put my heat gun on a low setting. Okay, one other piece of equipment that I'm going to need during this process is called a chip brush. And I use this to create the effect of a dithered or my secondary coat kind of fading into the primary coat, my secondary color. Okay, now some people like to dip in two different colors, but that makes a very distinct line across the lure, and that's, you know, to me it just seems somewhat attractive, and it doesn't really end up even. It'll be covering more of the lure one way than the other. Okay, so preheating the lure. Rotate the lure over the heat gun on low setting. You'll find that lead gets kind of shiny when it's about ready to be dipped. Okay, and I always make sure I get the ball end of it hot as well. Okay, I'm going to go into my yellow with a constant motion. Then I'm going to use the white top coat with the brush. Dip that on top or splatter that on top. Then I'm going to move on to the purple, covering all of white. And then finally the whole thing into the UV. And there you have it. Okay? Notice how strong that barb still is. Okay? Okay, so that's actually like 4 different coats of paint, and it still kept the fine detail of the jig, and that's what the fluid beds are all about. Uses very little of the weight or the paint itself. Okay, your paints will go a lot longer, you'll make less mistakes, and you'll produce a higher quality product every time. Okay, so when you're done painting for the day, cleanup and storage is pretty easy. Just match the color to the cup that you used. Make sure you get the caps on before you remove your cylinders. And they don't have to go on there real tight. You just need to cover your cylinders. You'll find that they don't leak on you. Remove your cylinders. Okay, you can store those away somewhere and be ready for you to use next time. Okay, so the product that I sell, once again, comes with the setup just like this one. Has 4 different chambers, but you get 2 extra extra chambers as well. I'm going to send you 6 filters to put inside the cups like I did at the beginning of this demonstration. And you'll also get the air pump. So really all you need to get is yourself a heat gun, maybe build yourself a hanging rack, some forceps, some chip brushes, and you could build hundreds and hundreds of quality lures with this product. I doubt this thing will ever wear out. You can pass it on to the grandchildren if you want to. Okay, get in contact with me and I'll get one out to you as soon as I can.